Welcome back. Lori Horton from Celebration by Lori joins us today with a recipe for an ice cream pie. Lori, what do we got going on today?
Oh, this is a good one. It's so simple, but it's perfect for a day like today. No need to turn the oven on.
Perfect.
Pretty basic stuff, probably stuff you already have in the house. So if you're having family over this afternoon, this evening to cook out, this is going to be a perfect dessert you can throw in around noon. Have it in the freezer or the fridge, and it's going to be ready to go for supper.
So if ovens don't work for you, this is the perfect.
Exactly, and we've got a couple of options on it. So our recipe that'll be available online later is going to have some tips on there for baking it as a pie, like in a traditional pie shell. And you can absolutely do that. But what I did yesterday, we had a family reunion for the weekend, right?
Perfect.
Labor Day. I did it for a larger group. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys today, kind of show you if you're having 10 or 12 people over, it's going to be perfect.
All right.
So we've got to start with a base crust. So if you're doing this as a pie, you can use a homemade pie crust, you can make a pie crust, you can do graham cracker. Oreo goes great with this because we've got cherry.
Yes.
We've got to have the chocolate, right? This is going to be the exception. A lot of times on the show I've talked about how when we use Oreos and we crush them, we want to take the filling out. We need that yummy flavor. We need a little bit of that fat to bind it to make this base. So we're going to leave that together, but you do need to grind this up in a food processor. If you guys can see, my crumbs are very fine. We want this to be pretty nicely ground up, not a lot of big pieces of Oreo left in there. And all I'm going to do for this one is make a little noise and just sprinkle this all and make a nice layer in the bottom of my pan. And this is about a 9 by 11 aluminum pan, because again, we're going outside tonight and we're just making this easy. We don't need to do dishes when it's over. We're gonna finish this up and throw it away or send it home with the leftovers. And then I've got a little bit of melted butter. So again, this is where if you were doing this in a pie pan, you would bake that pie crust a little bit, but we don't really have to do that when we're doing this in bulk, because we're going to scoop this out. We don't have to slice it and make it look all pretty. We're going to pour just a little bit of that melted butter, and you just kind of go by ear. I've got about a half a stick in there that I melted. Add it in there, and then just sort of mix that around a little bit and flatten it back out. You don't want it to be real wet. You just want it to have a little bit of something to bind that, so when you spoon it out, it makes it a little bit easier. And then you can just easily set that aside while we mix up our filling, which we're gonna do when we come back in our second segment, because it's got a couple more steps. But this is simple. So again, if you're doing it in your pie crust, you would do this and then you would pop it in the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes. And all you're gonna do is kind of toast that Oreo base and make that pie crust a nice solid piece. One little tip if you are doing that, when you get to the edges in a round crust, take a spoon, a rounded edge of a spoon, even your measuring spoon will work, and pat that in that edge, because when you cut it, you need it a little thicker in the corners so that it stays together and you don't get that annoying sort of broken up piece. Still tastes great, but it doesn't look very pretty. It makes it kind of hard to transfer to the plate. So that's a little extra bonus tip there if you are doing it as a pie. And we want to keep in mind this filling will make 2 full pies if you're doing it that way. That's why we're going in bulk today. So when we come back, all of our filling, delicious.
Well, we're starting off right because we got Oreo in the pan.
Absolutely, and butter. It's health food practically.
All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Lori Horton joins us from Celebration by Lori, and she's been showing us her recipe for a cherry no churn ice cream pie. It just sounds good when I say it.
It does. It's really one that just, you know, when you go through your recipes, and I'm probably the only nerd that reads recipe books like they're an encyclopedia, but it's one that catches your eye. You're like, ooh, sounds really good. So we got our crust made earlier, and that was so simple because it was just, you know, food processor Oreos, whole Oreos, and a little bit of melted butter. And the way that we're doing it for the large pan is going to be super simple because we didn't have to bake that. We just layered those in there, put a little butter on them, went from there. So the next step we're going to do though is make a little bit of homemade whipped cream. Now, if you're really in a hurry, you can do Cool Whip. This is about the equivalent of a couple of tubs of Cool Whip, or whatever your favorite brand is. I'm gonna make a little noise here and we're gonna whip this on up. But I've just got straight up heavy whipping cream in here. We're not adding anything to this. If we were making a whipped cream topping, we'd put a little sugar or a little flavor in that. But we want this for strictly the whipped cream. So that's why it's really great when you go ahead and whip it up from scratch with just that fresh cream.
Perfect.
It's gonna make it a little bit lighter, which it's cooler right now, but give it time. It's gonna be really nice and creamy. And it gives it that texture of ice cream, even though we're not really making ice cream. So we wanna whip this until stiff peaks form, and that's gonna take just about 1.5 minutes. And I already got this about halfway there. So pretty quickly. And again, hand mixer, don't have to get out the big equipment for this.
Sure. But even if you don't have this at your disposal, you said Cool Whip is a good option.
Cool Whip is always a good option, and it's still delicious with that. You know, go for the full round of Cool Whip. You can even go with some of the flavored ones they have now, the vanilla and the different ones that are a little richer. But this is going to be a good stiff peak. You can see it on my beaters there. And then we're going to set that aside for just a minute. We're going to take a can of cherry pie filling, whole thing.
Yeah.
And again, your favorite brand, if you like the kind that's got extra fruit, if you need to make this a little lower sugar, you can make that option. You can make this from scratch as well. Use a different kind of fruit if you like. If you prefer peaches or, you know, my brain just lost fruit.
That's fine.
But, you know, change it up. Make it whatever you guys like.
This is not something that you would say is set in stone, has to be done one way.
No, never. You want to take a potato masher. I've got a pie crust masher here, and all I'm going to do is just chop up that fruit a little bit because we don't want really large pieces. This is going to go where you make it easier to spoon and slice, so it's always awkward when you have really large chunks of fruit in there. Don't have to go crazy. Break them up just a little bit, but don't lose any of that good fruit in there, so make sure you clean that off. And to that, we're going to add a can of sweetened condensed milk. So fear not, there will be plenty of sweet sugar in that. It's in our sweetened condensed milk. We're going to mix that together thoroughly and add a little bit of almond flavor. And when we come back, we'll combine all of this and finish our topping and make it look pretty.
All right, we'll be right back with more after this. Welcome back. We're here with Lori Horton, who's making our cherry no churn ice cream pie, and it's looking good so far, Lori.
It is. I mean, we've got all the elements. It really can't go wrong from here.
Perfect.
Famous last words. We've got our cherry pie filling and that sweetened condensed milk all mixed up here. Added just a splash of almond. You could do vanilla, whatever your favorite is, but I love almond with cherry. It just gives it that little extra. And the other little extra that I'm going to add in there, because we've got our chocolate in the Oreo crust, I'm going to put a few little chocolate, and these are just ice cream sprinkles, but they're going to give you just a little hint of chocolate as you bite through that. And we're going to put some of these on top as well, of course. And then we're going to fold in all of that homemade whipped cream that we just whipped up.
Right on.
And you don't have to be real gentle with this, because this is not a rise or fall. Oh, be so careful as you fold in the whipped cream. We actually want to get this really fully incorporated. So you're just stirring it in gently. It's already all mixed up, and that pie filling is going to be really nice and fluffy in there, believe it or not, for as dense as it starts out. But what this does is starts to create this creamy, smooth, you can see it really almost does look like melted ice cream in there. And as we put this in our crust, or 2 pie shells, if you went that route, it's kind of an option. This is going to be something you can serve just cold out of the fridge, or if you really want to go full on nice ice cream texture, you pop it in the freezer for about 4 hours. And if you are making this in a pie shell, that's what you want to do so that it is stiff enough that you can actually cut it and serve slices.
So would you recommend cooling it down no matter what, at least before you serve it?
Yeah, you want to chill it in the fridge for a while either way. I had an awesome family reunion yesterday. I have to say the reviews on this were freaking amazing. So I think that was successful.
Absolutely.
So I love hearing that, but I just chilled it in the fridge overnight, and I popped it in the freezer for a little while right before we served it. It was perfect. We spooned it out. It made it easy. You didn't have to really stress about it. So we're going to pour this entire container in there. And then I'm going to come back. I've got some hot fudge sauce over here that's been getting nice and soft.
It really does look like ice cream.
Doesn't it though?
I don't know if
I know, it's always so hard, especially with a light color.
But the texture here really does kind of look like ice cream.
It's so nice, and it's just a light texture, even though obviously it's got a little good stuff in there. That sweetened condensed milk, that pie filling. small pieces.
Sure.
But it's so good. And it really, you could serve it absolutely right now if you just spooned it out.
Sure.
But it's going to be a little bit easier to dip if you go ahead and chill that. And actually what I did was chill it before, and then right before I served, I added my toppings.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit more solid, a little bit more easy to spoon on there, but it's okay. We have hot fudge here.
Love it.
We're gonna go with a little bit of that across those pieces. We don't need to be fancy with it because we're gonna come back and smooth it out. And then, just to make sure everybody knows that it's cherry underneath there, we're gonna add some whole maraschino cherries.
Have to.
Absolutely. And it almost gives it kind of an ice cream sundae vibe.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
good. So again, you probably have most of this in the cabinet. Get it out, put it all together. So perfect for your cookouts tonight, and very easy. The kids can even help with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then adding those cherries right on
Adding
top.
those cherries right on top.
And you said we were going to add some more sprinkles on
Well,
top
of
as
course.
too.
Let's find those
I'm going
sprinkles.
to do that.
That requires a professional
This is
hand.
the best job to add a few
Absolutely.
sprinkles on top of that.
Never go wrong.
And that is cherry no churn ice cream pie. Love it.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Lori. Make sure that you look on our website for this recipe. Once again, Lori, thank you. We'll be right back.